Hello, my sweet, beautiful internet besties. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have a video that I have been so excited to do for literally months. We are doing the ultimate cozy Halloween fall spooky reading vlog, and I'm going to be reading potentially the most iconic Halloween classics and spooky stories to ever exist. And that might be a little dramatic, but hey, it's Halloween. It's the one time of year that I get to be dramatic. So the two books that I have in mind for this video are none other than Dracula by Bram Stoker and Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Does it get more iconic than that? I really don't think so. And I feel like this is the perfect way to get into the fall, cozy Halloween spirit. And I am so excited. And I have actually started my first book. The first book that I'm going to be reading in this video is Dracula. I have this book both checked out from my library on Libby. I have the audiobook checked out, but then little life hack. Kindle Unlimited has I think it's called their Amazon Classics collection. And so like almost any classic you guys can get from Kindle Unlimited if you look specifically for the Amazon Classics edition. So I'm looking right now, and so I also have the ebook available to me through Kindle Unlimited. And so my plan is to just switch back and forth between the audiobook and the Kindle version, and I'm so excited. Little reading update, I am 10% into Dracula so far, and not only do I feel like this is a wonderful classic so far, this is just an incredible book so far. I feel like with classics, I tend to be looking for the historical context, literary analysis, like all of the good juicy details, but I'm not necessarily on the edge of my seat. I'm not necessarily dying to know what's going to happen next, and in Dracula I absolutely am. And so basically we are following our main protagonist. His name is Jonathan Harker, and he's a businessman, and he's essentially on this business trip to stay with Count Dracula at his castle in Transylvania. Now this is a gothic horror novel, and so right from the beginning everything is extremely spooky, and our main character is like, this feels a little bit off. Everyone around me is very superstitious. And so he goes and meets up with none other than Count Dracula at his castle, and he's starting to pick up on all of these little quirks, I guess is the best way to say it, about the Count, and he's starting to get a little spooked. And obviously we know that Count Dracula is a vampire, but bestie Jonathan has no idea. And I'm absolutely loving the descriptions. This is perfect for Halloween, and if it continues at this rate, it may become one of my favorite classics, and I cannot wait to get a little bit further into this classic. And I think that's all I have to say about that. I will update you guys when I have made more progress in Dracula. I'm so excited. I'm officially over halfway through Dracula by Bram Stoker, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a reading update. I am still absolutely loving this book. It is giving all of the spooky, festive vibes, and honestly, as we've progressed through the book, it's getting so different from what I expected the story to be. I feel like in my mind, I was expecting to spend a lot of time at the Hotel Transylvania and with Count Dracula and with our young professional who again goes to Transylvania, and you guys know the rest of that story. But honestly, we only spend about the first 20%, at least so far, in Transylvania, and then we go back to Scotland, I think. I'll write on the screen if that's that's wrong. But we go back to Scotland and we're connected to a whole bunch of other characters. And so we're reading all of their different journal entries, and it's really, really intriguing. It's really interesting. And again, it really has strayed from what I expected this book to be. One thing that I'm really, really enjoying is that this book is constantly moving. Like as soon as one scene ends, we're jumping right into the next thing. And it's very spooky and eerie and gothic, but there's a lot that's going on. So I'm finding that I'm not getting bored. I will say at this point, I think I'm technically 56% in. I am missing a little bit of the Transylvania, like, you know, just your very stereotypical Count Dracula story. Again, that, you know, I don't even know where I learned that story from, but like my expectations for this book, I want to be spending a little bit more time in like spooky castles, which we're not really doing anymore. But again, there's a lot of other spooky things going on. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this book. Also, plot twists, some things have just gone down that I really did not expect to happen. Like, would not have guessed that at all. So, plot twists, yes. Eerie, spooky Halloween vibes, yes. And I'm really enjoying it. I honestly don't know what else to say about this book besides the fact that, again, it has strayed away a little bit from what I was expecting, but not necessarily in a bad way. I just hope that we ultimately get to spend a little bit more time in Transylvania in this story. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is I do feel emotionally attached to some of the characters, which I don't always find in classics. Like sometimes I'm just there for the writing or the plot, but I don't necessarily emotionally care for the characters. And I like want everybody to survive. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? What are they gonna do? How are they gonna solve the problem? And I'm really enjoying that because again, I don't always look for that in a classic. So I'm really, really enjoying this book. And I guess I'll update you all when I finish. Dracula this morning, and I am absolutely flabbergasted by how much I freaking loved this book. I feel like I was expecting to like it because, again, it's October. It's gonna put me in the Halloween spirit. Everything that I've pretty much already said up to this point, but everything about the story, the characters, the plot, the writing, I felt like I don't know what it was. I connected to every single element of it. There were plot twists. I was emotionally invested in the characters, and in some ways it was very aligned with what I expected the book to be like, but in other ways it was very different, which I think I talked about a little bit earlier. And I think I overall really liked the ways that it strayed away from what I was expecting. And without any spoilers, we do get a little bit more spooky castle moments in this story. No spoilers, but my hopes did in fact come to fruition, so I'm very, very happy about that. And yeah, I just freaking was obsessed with this book. It definitely put me in the Halloween spirit. And this is a bit of a longer one. The audiobook I think was around 20 hours. I think it's 400 something pages printed or on Kindle. And so it's long, but I honestly still feel like even though it's a little bit on the longer side for a classic, this is a really good one if you're looking to start with classics. The writing is very easy to understand. There's not a crazy amount of characters that we have to keep track of. One thing that I really loved about this story is we do end up switching POVs quite a bit as we make our way towards the end of the story. And we're not only experiencing the story through different characters, but we're reading it through their diary entries. And I found that really, really interesting. And I feel like Bram Stoker did a really good job distinguishing each of the characters' voices. Each of the characters' journal entries and thoughts were so different, and it was very easy to tell who you were reading from. I also just feel bad that like all of the besties had to endure the horror that is vampires You know, like this is definitely spooky, and I don't know how I would handle this situation. I really respect how our characters went about solving the issue towards the end of the story. Let's just say I think everyone had a really good moral compass. We're gonna leave it at that. If I was in this situation, would I have had the guts to do what these people did? I don't know. But I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I think I'm just gonna sit here and recover from that story. And then I will see you guys when I pick up our next read, which is gonna be Frankenstein, which I've also heard wonderful things about, and I think it's quite a bit shorter than Dracula. So, slay. I am very, very excited, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Officially started Frankenstein, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a reading update before I get too far into it. So right now you would have seen that I started the audiobook. I started it yesterday and then I continued it today. And now I'm officially 25% into the book, and I'm definitely enjoying it so far. But at this point, I was enjoying Dracula significantly more than I'm currently enjoying Frankenstein. That could totally change, and it's probably a little bit unfair to Frankenstein that I read it right after another kind of spooky classic. I don't know if that would have any impact on my rating, but I can't help but compare them just a little bit. Other than that though, it is good so far. I'm enjoying it. There's a bit of an introduction at the beginning of the story, but now I'm getting a little bit further into the meat of it, and we're listening to Victor Frankenstein, who is essentially like a scientist, a doctor. I mean, you guys know the story. He's recounting what it was like to bring back the no longer living. We follow him really early on in the story as he becomes obsessed with it. Starts out as like he's obsessed with biology and chemistry, and then he's obsessed with life and the source of life and bringing life back into things that are no longer living. Again, we haven't really heard much about like the monster, what that actually means, what that looks like. And again, I'm very early in, no spoilers at all beyond this point, and it's good so far. I like it. It's definitely lacking a bit of the emotional investment for me. Also, it's a little bit more difficult for me to understand than Dracula for some reason. I don't know if that's like the common opinion. I really should probably look into that. And also, I don't know the exact dates that each of these books were written. Probably should, but I don't. And so, yeah, I'm still liking it. It's definitely spooky and creepy and perfect for October. And I'm still really glad that I'm reading it. But yeah, I think at this point, I definitely preferred Dracula just a touch more, but that's not to say that things could change as we progress further into the book. I could become more attached to the characters, more interested in some of these early sci-fi elements, and I'm excited. I definitely feel optimistic about where the story could go. With all of that said, I will update you guys when I am a little bit further, have more concrete opinions, but that's the premise, that's the basis of what we're working with in this Frankenstein story. And yeah, I will update you guys when I have more to say. Hello everyone. As you saw, I went on a walk yesterday. I was crocheting, and I feel like something that I tend to do with classics is start with the audiobook and then switch over to reading it. For me, there's something very comforting about listening to a book and then being a little bit into it, having a good idea of the story, and then switching over to reading it, for me in this case on my Kindle. And so I think that's what I'm gonna do for Frankenstein, but I meant to update you guys a little sooner. I am so sorry. Currently, I am 70% of the way through Frankenstein, and honestly, the last like 30-40% has just completely flown by. I know I was saying before that I wasn't as emotionally invested. It was like good, but not great. Guys, I had no idea. Like, I feel like I really didn't know anything about this story, again, beyond the stereotypes, what's in popular culture. And it turns out, this is not a spoiler. I'm not going to say the details. If you've read this, you'll know. We end up getting a whole other, I want to say POV, like I don't know if that's the technical term for this, but we get the inner thoughts of more characters than just Victor Frankenstein, the scientist, biologist guy who creates our monster. And the second that we switched over and got into the mind of another character in this story, all of a sudden I was instantly attached to the story. I had no idea where we were gonna go from there, and now I'm feeling very, very invested. And not only that, I have no freaking idea where the story is headed. I think there are some questions that are being asked of Victor Frankenstein, our main character, and I don't know how he is going to answer those questions. Also, there's another element in this book that I'm loving, which is the fact that we're getting a bit of a villain origin story. You have this creation, this monster, this villain, and I feel like beyond that, I don't know anything about, again, this monster that's created, but in this book, we are getting a major villain origin story. I am eating up understanding again, it's hard to describe, but like the life of this monster, why he becomes the way that he does. I also feel like the literary analysis in this book, again, I haven't read super far into it yet. I usually like to read different analyses after I have finished reading classics and like made up my own mind and had my own independent thoughts about them. But I feel like the opportunity for analysis is so much deeper in this book. One conversation that I'm also really, really loving is Frankenstein compares himself, like we have this comparison of man being the creation of God and Frankenstein being the creation of man. And, you have man who is beautiful and created in God's image, but Frankenstein is ugly and created by man, and man didn't think through their decision to create this monster. Like, that is just one small piece of this story. And I just feel like there's so much commentary going on. Again, it's hard in these videos because I don't want to get into it because I don't want to spoil anything. I'm really loving not knowing where this book is going to go, but there's just so many comparisons being made, and I feel like there's so much that we could take away from this story that Mary Shelley is like trying to tell us. So I'm eating up that aspect too. So all of this is to say, my feelings have very much turned around towards I'm super majorly enjoying this book, and I'm so curious to see where we go from here. Like, things could get so crazy so fast. I think that's all from me. I'm probably gonna switch over to reading on my Kindle, and we're just gonna see where we go from here. I'm so excited. I finished Frankenstein and I wanted to talk to you guys about it, give my final review, and then also just conclude this ultimate epic Halloween spooky classics reading vlog. A lot going on there, but I had so much fun and I hope that you guys did too. So like I said before, I did finish Frankenstein and my feelings towards this book ended up growing and changing a lot as I made my way through it. As you guys saw at the beginning, I wasn't feeling super attached. I didn't care for the characters as much as I was hoping to. As soon as we got that, again, that second POV that I was telling you guys about, I ended up really loving this book. And the end, guys, I don't want to say things go crazy, but a lot does happen at the end of this story. And you know, I just feel bad for everybody involved. I'm not going to say what happens. I did enjoy the ending, but I feel like what I appreciate even more than the plot of this story and where this story went, I guess is the best way to say that. I really appreciated a lot of the more subtle messaging that Mary Shelley had throughout this story. Like, I feel like she was able to be very poignant about certain ideas through her writing and through this story. One thing that I don't think I've brought up yet in this video is how we look at this idea of whether or not evil is born or made. That was another thing I absolutely adored about this book, is exploring the things that can happen to a person that make them who they are, or if you are born with some amount of evil in you. I just thought that exploration in this story was really, really interesting. And then I also loved this character comparison that we had between Victor Frankenstein, our main character, as well as the monster in this book. As we progressed throughout the story, I felt that the two of them became more and more similar. Again, I'm not going to say in what ways, but it became very clear to me that there was this very interesting comparison going on between the creator and the created, and I really enjoyed it. So I think I still definitely enjoyed Dracula a bit more than Frankenstein, but I still enjoyed them both, and I can definitely say that now I'm officially in the spooky spirit. Halloween is like 2 days out, but I'm pretty sure if I can get everything done and edited in time, this will be going up on Halloween. So if you're watching this on the day that this goes live, happy Halloween special. I am so excited. I love Halloween and I feel so successful in this video. Just a quick recap, I read Dracula and Frankenstein and I ended up enjoying them both. And they're honestly great classics to get started with if you're looking for classics to read during the fall season. I will say I felt like comprehension-wise, Dracula was a bit easier to understand. And I've now learned that Dracula came out, I want to say like 75 years after Frankenstein, which I did not know. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. If you guys made it all the way to the end, comment down below the vampire emoji so I know who the real ones are. And I think that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys are having a great day and a great reading month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!